Today, I will be talking together with Albin Aliu, and I'll actually ask you, Albin, to introduce yourself really shortly. So the name again, where you come from, where you studied, and the university you'll be heading to in the fall.
Yeah, definitely. Let me thank you for inviting me through this presentation and share my thoughts on today's topic. I'm Albin Aliu. I'm from Kicevo. I go to Yahya Kemal Struga, my high school. I'm currently a senior, I could say, even though the year is not still finished. I was recently also accepted to Vanderbilt University in Nashville, and I would be hopefully joining them this fall with the biochemistry program.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Actually, you will be talking most of the part in today's conversation. Actually, you will be the expert. We are talking about SAT and TOEFL today, the entrance exams to US colleges and universities that are very important. Just at the beginning, I will share information about these tests, what they are, where you can find information to register, and then we will switch to Albin's presentation where he has really detailed information, how to prepare, what books to use, resources, tips, etc. And we are open to questions, of course. You can type the questions in the chat box all throughout the session. We can stop, answer questions, or maybe answer all of them at the end. It's completely fine with both of us. So let me start with a brief introduction to these tests. So we are talking about two entrance exams, SAT and TOEFL, and they are different. The SAT is the general entrance exam that all Americans and international students take in order to apply and get accepted to accredited, especially competitive universities in the US. And the other one is TOEFL. TOEFL is the TOEFL IBT is the language, one of the two most best world known English language tests that actually measures your English language skills, and that's mandatory for all international students, of course. I actually posted two links of the websites in the chat box where you can find information about these tests. So for the SAT is the College Board. You can create an account there and register for upcoming dates. And the other one is the ETS.org/TOEFL, where you can register for TOEFL exams. Due to the situation, the global pandemic situation, the SAT tests are postponed this year until further notice. Probably the next SAT will be available either at the end of the summer or beginning of the fall. But TOEFL also can be taken in the country official testing centers, which are the American corners in Bitola, Skopje, and Tetovo. And if you would like to know when is the next testing date, you can either check that on the ETS website that I just shared in the chat box, or you can also email my colleagues at the American corners in Bitola, Skopje, and Tetovo and check with them when is the next available TOEFL testing date. What is also important about the American corners that are also official TOEFL centers is that they offer free resources, free books that you can use to prepare for this test, for both of them, for SAT and for TOEFL. You have to be a member, they are a member, and the membership is free of charge, so you can actually use all the other resources they have in Centra. So what is also important this year is that maybe if you're familiar with the application process at American universities, you've seen that many of them are announcing that they will be test optional this upcoming fall, or that's the next application season or cycle. Please keep in mind, I'll actually share after Albin's presentation a list of universities that are test optional, where you will see that at the end, SAT is also, although the school is test optional, the schools are requiring SAT for international students. So just this is a brief tip or advice that is important, that when you see that a school is test optional, please take a look at the better look at their website and see if that requirement also is mandatory for that means whether the SAT is mandatory for international students as well. The tests in general, both SAT and TOEFL, are important part of the application process for American universities, because they actually help university assess your academic knowledge and English language skills as well, so you can thrive, you can really succeed at their universities. But also it's a measure that it's really a part of your application, where you're compared with other students who apply, or both from America and internationally. And in many cases, these test scores actually help students get full scholarship or get a scholarship to start with. So the tests in general, although they are, I think, the hardest part for many students, because eventually, I mean, they are tests and it takes time to really learn how to prepare well, and usually students take SAT a couple of times, not just once. They are hard, but also not impossible. I must say that our competitive college club students and general test takers from our country are really scoring high compared to other countries and worldwide. So usually we students don't have problems to really get high scores on these tests. Of course, that means they prepare a couple of months ahead of the testing date. They prepare well. They take the test at least 2 times, for example, etc. But Albin will share more about that. How was the experience from a student perspective, because he actually took both of these tests and the SAT subject test. So I'll actually ask Albin now to start with his part of the presentation. And as I said, please type any questions you might have in the chat box. We want to make sure that we can help out with the test as much as we can, because for many students, especially high school students, when they join competitive college club, they're usually most frightened by this part, or maybe this part represent the biggest obstacle. Luckily, within CCC, we have the support of people who already took the test, or we call them the alumni, the scholars. Every generation works with people from previous generation. We have tutoring sessions for the students, so you're not alone. Actually, you have a lot of help during preparations. Albin, let me share your presentation. So you can start. Just I hope you can see it now.
We can see it.
Okay.
Great. So today I would be talking about SAT and TOEFL tests, 2 standardized exams, as Billy said, which play crucial role in college admissions. And I would like to share some of the tips, what do they test, and their importance when it comes to the admissions. So, next. The first question is, what does SAT test? We need to know that this SAT is actually redesigned SAT, and it has 4 important sections, those being reading, writing, math without calculator, and math with calculator. When it comes to reading, it has 52 questions. It is 75 minutes section, and you have actually 5 passages, probably 1 history, 1 social science, actually 2 social sciences and 2 sciences, only science. This section mostly has wording context. You have identifying writer's view. You also need to summarize passages, ideas, and notice the details. Questions are through multiple choices, so you have the answers provided to you. You just need to find the right one. This is mostly regarded as one of the difficult sections, but I assure you that through enough practice, you can handle it very easily. The next section is writing and language section. It has 44 questions and you need to solve them in 35 minutes. It's again offered through multiple choices, so you have the choices there. It mostly tests the sentence formation, topic development, punctuation, language, and the way that you need to use certain phrases like therefore, moreover, in a text, in an academic test. When it comes to math, most of you would know because I was also your tutor. You have no calculator and with calculator. You mostly have topics that you have studied through high school from the first grade to the third grade. You have algebra, data analysis, functions, probability, statistics, and basic trigonometries. No calculator is mostly the easier part, but you need to be very careful because you don't have as much time as you have in the calculator section. And you also have 5 questions where you don't have the multiple choice, but you have the plug-in numbers. The calculator section is also regarded as a difficult one, but once you know what types of traps does SAT make you to make mistakes, you can easily handle them. And also this section has the 8 questions where you need to plug in your answer and 30 others where you have multiple choices and you need to find on the right one. Next one. So how can you prepare for SAT? There are a couple of ways and there are different approaches. Those are my recommendation. I think you would do very good if you just follow them, but you can also have your own. First one is Khan Academy. Khan Academy, you must have known from also a lot of things that they are doing by providing free education, but when it comes to SAT, I think they are the best. Why? Because they not only provide you with a 10 actually real SAT with timing and everything, but they also have this personalized way of testing you. Let's say if you are bad at writing or you are bad at reading, they actually detect that through your answers and make you progress or make you work more on that section. Personally, in the beginning, I had a very much problem with my grammar in English. So once I started practicing in Khan Academy, they realized that I was a little bit lacking those skills. So they put it more and more problems in that area so that I would prepare. Next one. Then you have the SAT official test. Those tests that also Biljana mentioned you can find in American Corner if you're a member. The official SAT study guide not only has the SATs, the official test, but it also has the guide to the SAT. So if you don't understand how the scores are made or how you get your scores, you have the SAT study guide. If you are not sure what rules you need to follow, you also have this book. If you are unsure how you need to present your answer in the answer sheet, you could also follow this book, and every answer you will find on this one. So it's very, very crucial, I would say. Then you have SAT preparatory books. There are a ton. You have Kaplan, Princeton Review, Barron's, but my personal recommendation would be for reading The Critical Reader by Rika Meltzer and for math, The College Pandas SAT. Why would you ask? The reading, The Critical Reader by Rika Meltzer, has especially helped me a lot because it had a lot of strategies of how you can approach the passages. I would mostly read the passages and directly go to the questions. But once I started reading this book, they told me that you need to also underline certain points, differentiate between main idea, and also need to understand what's the author's point. So this book really helps you figure out the minor or the details of the SAT reading. When it comes to College Pandas SAT for math, it is also very helpful because you have the important formulas shown in you in the beginning, and you have a ton of problems where I assure you that some of those problems will definitely appear in the SAT. So I would say it's very accurate representation of SAT's math. Then you have the subreddit RSAT and RSAT. Much of my friends didn't use, but I would definitely recommend it because in those subreddits, not only you can find friends from everywhere in the world that are going through the same process as you, like taking SATs and college applications, but if you have if you have a problem and you don't know the answer, you can easily post that in those subreddits, and I assure you, you will get in a matter of minutes a response either from a student who knows the answer or either from a tutor that is certainly involved in that subreddit. Also, an important point is check the CC resources because there are a ton. Personally, it helped me also a lot for SAT preparation because you have tutoring. That was myself and my friends like Biljana. You have helpful webinars like this one where you can learn a lot about them, and you have important articles that Bile always shares with you, which I really recommend checking them out. So when it comes to actually preparing for SATs, I would say that you need to prepare passively for 3 to 4 months, including 10 hours per week. You need to revise your material so you don't get lost. This is also just take it as a recommendation. It doesn't need to be necessarily true. Everyone has different ways of learning, so this is just a recommendation. And as I said, passively for 3 to 4 months. And I would say that last month or last 3 weeks, I would need you to practice intensively and revise that material and actually take a real SAT exam. This is one of the best tips. If you are going to the SAT, are taking the SAT, don't just solve section, take a whole SAT so that you know how it feels, how it is to be under the pressure of taking the SAT. Next one. So why is SAT important? It is for a different reason. In the corner there, you can see also my score. It represents you and it compares you to the American students that are taking the SAT. My score was 1,440 and I was on 98th percentile, which means I scored better than 98%, or I was equal to the 98% of the people that took. As you can see, that was divided into my math score and my reading and writing score. As much as I would like that to be balanced, unfortunately, I'm a little bit better at math, and that's why I got 800. And at the writing and reading score, I got a pretty decent score, which is 640. These two scores also, as you can see underlined, it's said that show that I'm prepared to handle the college material that will be if I join a college, and that how much will I be good at the material that will be in college. Next. So a reason why is SAT important is that college admissions are searching for it. They really want to see your SATs, and as you can see, the admission is divided like in 3 parts. I could say the academic records, which includes your grades, your curriculum, class rank, which we don't have, extracurricular activities, clubs, sports, community service, essays, and another crucial factor is SAT scores. You might ask, why do the colleges ask for SAT? SAT not only is as a test, but it also interprets how much you have put practice through the high school. How much have you stayed in Saturday nights and actually solved some math or SAT questions, and how much you are preparing for the college process. And you also have these top 25 colleges, which I would say the SAT also is important because it determines in what college you are going to. When you take your SAT scores, Bila also would know that the next step is making your college list. And depending on what score you get, you could also classify in what colleges you would best fit. You also have here some of the colleges well known, such as MIT, Princeton, and as you can see, the top 10 mostly need you to have the average of 1,500, but you could also get in with a score of 1,400 at least, which I recommend you get much more than that. And I also need to mention to you guys, because while SAT is very important, very crucial, it is not everything in the admission process. As you can see, my score was 1,440. And you can see Vanderbilt there at number 8. It has a score from 1,480 to the 1,590. So it means I was below the average. But again, with enough extracurricular activities, academic record, and other things that helped me boost that SAT score, put me to the competitive range of the students, which helped me gain admission. Now, what does TOEFL test? Why is TOEFL important? Why do we need to take TOEFL? TOEFL also is a standardized exam. It's especially important for international students. And I could say it's kind of same with the SAT reading and writing part to a certain way. It also tests 4 different skills. You have reading, listening, speaking, and writing. The total time is 3 hours. You have integrated tasks, which means you need to hear or read some of the patches in order to answer certain questions. And while you do take the TOEFL, you could also take notes, which is very helpful. When it comes to the reading section, you have 3 to 4 passages, mostly 700 words, and you have multi-focus passages. You need to compare, to contrast them, you need to find the cause effect, and mostly you have 10 questions for each passage. The times for this is 54 to 72 minutes. And personally speaking, from my experience, the reading section of the TOEFL was much easier than the reading section from the SAT. So if you are doing good in SAT, you would also be, I guess, doing great in the reading section of the TOEFL. The next one is listening section. It is also a very easy section where you need only to listen to the lecture or 2 people discussing in a classroom. It might be 2 people arguing about an article in a magazine, or you could also have a student and a professor talking about grading an exam. You only need to be careful hearing that discussion or hearing that lecture, and then you would be provided with the questions which you need to answer. The time for this is 41 to 57 minutes, but I guess most of the people that take TOEFL don't even need that much time, because the answers are very straightforward and you don't need to think of them too much. You only need to hear them. Then it comes to different tasks. Speaking section, which is regarded or reckoned as one of the difficult sections because students get very anxious when they start speaking. Personally, I had this problem. When I started in the speaking part, I was very nervous, but one thing that I would advise is just be confident with your voice. As long as you're not trembling and you are not that much nervous, you sound very confident, you will definitely do great in speaking section. Also, I need to mention that the structure of your speech and the argument that you provide play very significant role. You have 4 tasks, 1 independent question. Independent question is the question very basic, which you might face every day, like what is your favorite pet and why? And you need to provide the races or the kind of pets that you like and the reason why you do like them. This is very, very basic, but then you again have 3 integrated tasks where you need to read a passage or hear a lecture, and based on what you read or hear, you need also to speak for yourself and reformulate what was stated on the passage or what was spoken to the lecture. Then lastly but not leastly, you have writing section. You have 2 tasks, 1 integrated task and 1 independent. In the writing section, it's also easy. You could very much prepare for it, I guess, in 1 or 2 weeks. It has integrated task where you also need to hear a lecture or you need to read a passage and then formulate your opinions or your thoughts on that. Writing section is basically the speaking section, just extended and more in details. Then beside the integrated task, you have the independent task when you have a topic and you need to present your arguments if you whether agree with it or disagree. This actually takes 50 minutes. And both those 4 sections that I mentioned, reading, listening, speaking, and writing, are graded from 0 to 30 points, which make the total maximum 120 points. So when you know all of these materials, what is being asked in TOEFL, you might wonder, how can you prepare for TOEFL? And I would make you more relieved and tell you that it's not as notorious as it is SAT, and it's not as much stressful as it is SAT. One thing which is best for a TOEFL, it has its own book. It's called The Official Guide to the TOEFL Test. And not only you are provided with enough material for TOEFL and you have a lot of examples by test, you also have the guide to it. You also have the same way with the SAT that you need to know about converting your score, how to do better, how those who take your test, how do they grade it. And by knowing those ways, you would also know what is the best way to take the TOEFL and what is the best way to improve. One thing that I would definitely recommend you guys checking is the YouTube channel TST Prep. This channel focuses on the way that the TOEFL is made and what it does actually test the students. It also includes very great tips by the tutor, and most of the times they are actually doing live sessions when they go through a TOEFL test and they solve very in detailed way the problems that are presented in TOEFL. Big major tip is preparing some templates. Templates are basically presented words or sentences where you can have them and just plug in things that you want to say in these templates. For example, if you have, let's say, a topic, is the globalism okay? And you need to formulate that, but you don't have time, you could have the template, while I do agree on, blank space, and you will present your reasons why you do agree with that. I still am of the opinion of, and you would have blank space and you would represent your contra argument. So templates are those who make your opinions, your thoughts more fluently and help you organize your thoughts into better manner. You could find them also in a lot of in every website, but I would definitely recommend those from the YouTube channel TST Prep. He also presents some of the great templates. Find a friend to practice speaking. Since speaking is what most of people I have heard or are afraid, find a friend to practice speaking. Personally, what I did, I found a friend of mine from Russia, and we would set every Sunday to meet with him through Discord, and he was taking also the TOEFL, and we agreed on practicing our English language and discussing with him, and also just having a random conversation. A random conversation would mean much more for you guys to open up, to be able to naturally speak in certain topics, and that would definitely come in handy when you are dealing with a speaking section. Check also the subreddit TOEFL advice. This subreddit also includes things like when the TOEFL is updated. I remember when I was taking the TOEFL, it was just the new TOEFL because they updated, they eliminated some of the integrated parts in the speaking and I think in the reading, if I'm not wrong. But what this subreddit allows you is to know and to be updated with the TOEFL news and the ways that the TOEFL is made. But it also includes, in the same way that subreddit SAT includes, problems and questions from different people who are going through the same process as you guys are going. Same thing goes for the CCC courses that are offered. Join all of them. They are very helpful. Personally speaking, last year I had very help from CC tutor Victor. He helped me very much, especially for the writing part, and only because I joined his courses, I was able to perform well then in the real writing section in TOEFL. For TOEFL, I would recommend preparing passively for 1-2 months, even though in the beginning I was very afraid. William might also remember, I was thinking of just postponing it for 3 or 4 months. And I also need to say this to you guys, you need to be confident in your English language skills, because you can really do it, since it is not as difficult as you initially think of it. And if you prepare for 1-2 months very much, it will be one of the easiest tests I can say. But again, you need to put that work in last 2 weeks, so I would recommend preparing 1-2 weeks intensively for TOEFL. So why is TOEFL important? TOEFL is very much important because it helps you show the colleges your language proficiency. Certain colleges have requirements for their speaking section, for their writing section. So if you score high on those sections, you're also telling the colleges that, hey, I'm very good at speaking, or I'm very good at presenting my thoughts in a paper. I'm very good at reading a text, or I'm very good at hearing the lecture, which means I'm very able to understand the topics when they are going to be held in your classroom in a college. You could also here see the photo, how they are compared for reading and listening skills. If you score from 22 to 30, that means that you are very good. You are, could say, in a high academic level. For speaking, the range is more difficult. It's 26 from 30, and most colleges would like to see that 26 and above in your TOEFL scores, and the writing skill comes from 24 to 30. Another thing also Billy mentioned before was that every school requires a TOEFL for international students. Since we are international students, our mother tongue probably is not English, and we need to demonstrate that we know that language. And what is the best way to do that through the TOEFL exam. Even though you have other options like Duolingo and yields. TOEFL is one of the exams that I took, and I personally, I'm very happy with it because I got the score that helped me gain admission into the college that I wanted. You could also see here a couple of universities I've listed. Hopefully, there are some of you wanted to apply to. And as you can see, even though there are some colleges that accept scores from 80 and 90, I would definitely recommend try and go for 100 and above. If you go from 100 and above to TOEFL, it means that you are preparing enough, and it means that you are very good in English, so that you can gain more easily admission to the universities. I don't know if there are cutoffs in the colleges, but just to be sure, try and take that 100 points and above. One thing that I wanted to mention in this presentation is SAT subject tests, which I think it's not as much popular as TOEFL or SAT, but definitely are very, very, very great if you want to differentiate yourself from the other applicants. SAT subject tests are actually optional. You don't have to take them. But again, if you're applying to a competitive college like Harvard, imagine how many people are applying to that college and how many of them are taking and are doing everything that they can so that they could be differentiated from other competitors. So with that being said, I would like to introduce you to the SAT subject test. You have a list there where you can see you could take subjects from English, mathematics, which is level 1 and level 2, science, history, and languages. I personally took mathematics level 2, and I would definitely recommend you guys doing the same because if you're applying to a STEM major, if you're applying to engineering, colleges much more prefer to see the mathematics level 2 because it shows that you know those college level materials. For science, I personally took chemistry because it's what is related to my major, and I thought if I wanted to show my college that I'm really passionate about biochemistry and chemistry, I needed them to know that I could take those SAT subject tests and I could perform in them well. You also have the colleges. I know that most of colleges maybe don't ask for them, but in some colleges like George Washington University, Duke University, Dartmouth College, they recommend or they are optional. But you guys might have read also that articles that everything that is recommended optional is kind of saying that you need to take them if you want really to consider, not to consider you, but to be more competitive. While in some programs, like I can say in George Washington University, they only require them for certain degrees. For example, for engineering, they probably do. But if you want to go more into arts, I guess they don't. But again, taking them, even the English or the languages, will definitely boost your chances of getting admitted. For MIT also is a great example. They also require them to take the SAT subject test, and they have clear way of what they are requiring. They are requiring one SAT subject from mathematics and one from sciences. So you need to take those if you want to really be considered in MIT. Lastly, in what ways can you prepare for SAT subjects? There are a couple of ways, but personally, I would say the books are the great way, which you can find in American Corner. Barron's is a great book, but Barron's is actually more difficult than the real SAT subject test. And when I took Barron's, I was preparing for a lot of different things and very difficult things. So that when I entered the SAT subject test, I was feeling very confident and I was feeling very motivated to do the exam because I was already solving more difficult questions that were presenting in the SAT subject test. And that is why Barron's is regarded as a great book, because it over prepares you with the material. But if you are more of a person that likes to take the accurate way of SAT subject, I would recommend you taking the SAT subject test by Princeton Review. Those books are actually very great because not only they have the material and the way that they explain to you the topics, but they actually do have some of the best or most accurate tests, I could say, that are very similar to the SAT subject test. I even imagine in one of those SAT subject tests, when I was solving for chemistry, 3 or 4 questions appeared very similar in the real SAT subjects. I would definitely recommend them for you guys to get. I would really appreciate your attention for today, and I'm very thankful. If you happen to have any question for SAT, TOEFL, or SAT subjects, please let me know and feel free to ask me in the Gmail that I have listed down below here.
Thank you very, very much, Albin. This was wonderful. Thank you for all these details, your tips, your advice. I think this was extra useful for students who are here listening today and that will be listening after we share the webinar and post on our CCC website. I'll just turn off now the share screen and go back to our chat room so we can answer some questions if we have. Yes, and thank you for sharing all these useful things, not only the resources, but you know, the tips that helped you out, how you struggle with some part of the test, right? Because I think the most common thing is we don't really have this academic support in school to prepare for the SAT and TOEFL, right? So that's why this is more in a way amazing for our students who prepare and apply to American universities, that you basically start from scratch and you basically start from these books and just the knowledge. Go to this website, College Board, or go to ETS and check out what these tests are all about, compared to, let's say, American high school students that have preparation sessions during high school, so they are more or less familiar with the test. I must say, while we're waiting for questions, I must say again and again in every webinar, I repeat this: timing is very important, and you included that in your presentation. And no matter the topic we are sharing about the college application process, it's always comes down to the time when you start preparing. So give yourself time. Don't wait until the deadline comes for applying. That's why we in CCC we start a year ahead, and give yourself time. If you are not satisfied with the first scores you will get, go and take the test again on the next testing session and score higher. Leonid has a question that says, I don't have any question right now, but I just wanted to say thanks for the wonderful presentation. That's awesome. Yes, and Albin was a tutor, as he said, for CCC, for active members at the moment, helping out in a period of a month and a half with every weekend having tutoring sessions for students. And I would just say, I think, as you said, those sessions helped you last year, right? The work with Victor or some other recommendation we had within CCC also was a help, right?
Definitely. They were, I could say, also the stepping stone of getting my desired scores. So I could literally not imagine without the books that you guys provided in American Corner and without the help of every week tutoring from different alumni of CCC, I really wasn't going to achieve the score that I wanted. So
yeah,
take the opportunity that the CCC gives to you.
And I always ask students, alumni, when you finish with the process, right? And I always say, you know, if this was a challenge, if some of the tests were a challenge to you last year, what would you have done differently? Or not a challenge, you went through the process, right? But if you can go back and think about a student that is preparing at the moment, right? Go back in those shoes and tell me, what would you do differently if you could go back?
Well, to be honest, Bile, I'm a kind of procrastinator, as some teenagers might be, and I really leave the work to be very, very late. So I would recommend you guys don't leave SAT in the last week or last 2 days, because really on those last 2 days or last week, you cannot comprehend all the material that is needed for you to process through 3-4 months. I personally took 3 times SAT, and I really regret that. It wasn't great for my finances. But first time I was taking it just to get a handle of it, how it feels taking SAT. But the second time I got it, I could say, because I was overloaded with academic challenging enough from high school, I couldn't focus enough on SAT, and I was leaving it just on weekends. And as I was leaving that only in weekends, when weekend came, I would much more want to go for fun outside rather than practice SAT. So stop procrastinating right now and get those SAT done.
Yeah, and you offered some good tips like practice with a friend, find somebody who you can work together on this, like a study buddy. Find support. It doesn't have to be that you struggle with this alone. That's the point of it, right? That's the goal of CCC at the end, is that you are with people who go through the same thing. So you have somebody you can turn to and say, I have an issue. I'm a procrastinator. Can you help me out with this? And we can work together. Right.
And definitely don't get demotivated if you don't get your score. I remember the first SAT that I took as a practice, I got only 1,100, which is like very miserable score. But again, with enough practice, I assure you guys that you don't need to just say that I can do it. You definitely can do it. And even with the support that Bilja and the guys in the CCC are giving you, it's very, very available to get a really good score.
And it's great that you mentioned this. When you were disappointed, you were disappointed, as you said, right? When you got the first score, how did you overcome that and continue practicing?
Well, I overcame that with reminding myself, why did I start and what is my end goal? When I was thinking of SAT, I wasn't thinking of it as a test. I was thinking of it as a bridge between me and the college. If I wanted to go to Vanderbilt, I must take this SAT in order to show that I'm really good for them. And even though you might hate SAT, I personally did. Just remember yourself, just imagine yourself in a campus with your friends there, being in America, and you will definitely get motivated to study again SAT and take it.
Awesome. Perfect advice. Okay, let's finish up with you telling us a bit more about your school, right? You successfully enrolled at Vanderbilt University, which is one of the best universities in the US. You got full scholarship, which is amazing. So amazing results. Tell us a bit more for students who are not familiar with the name, and what are you doing now to prepare? How are the preparations going?
I would love to. Well, Vanderbilt is ranked, even though I don't look as much to the rankings, it does play a role. It's ranked on the number 15 in the US. It is on the number 55 in Shanghai list. It's very, very rigorous universities. Besides being very rigorous university, it's very generous. It has a great financial aid to the all international student. It basically covers all the costs. And when we are speaking of the cost, not only the direct cost like tuition and meals and room and board, but it also covers the plane tickets, the expenses that you might have at Vanderbilt there. So it's very generous university. Beside that, Vanderbilt is very known for its social status. It's not party school where you don't study, but our motto is study hard, play hard. And while we are very achieving and very successful in academics, we definitely have that social environment there with Greek life, with parties, with all those clubs that you want to join, with sports. And I would say for me personally, even though the academics matter very much, I would rather much more focus on an environment where I could fit and could be happy. And Vanderbilt gave that for me. It is also ranked, I think, the second as the most happy campus in the USA. So it's very great environment, both for you growing as a person, but also growing for you in a more knowledgeable way.
It seems that you know a lot of what you can expect, right? In the tell us a bit, what are you expecting first when you're probably preparing now? So when you go there, hopefully in the fall, what are you looking forward to? I know Nashville is the city where the campus is located, is well known in the US, being, for the social life as well, but also being a music center, right? There are concerts, world-known singers and bands go there and perform. So it's really, as you said, it's the second best at campus for a best social life known for. So tell us what you're looking for to
Well,
see, to meet.
The first thing that I'm going to do there is try those chicken fingers that everybody
talking about.
Yes, for eating is amazing place. Like you have different meals and different foods. But besides that, I have seen a couple of clubs that I really enjoyed. Debate has been one of my passions in high school, and I definitely want to continue it there. And by joining those debate clubs, I could also go in tournaments or go in competition, not only in USA, but also in England or in everywhere in the world that they are held. Besides that, I actually made a couple of friends from here. We do have movie nights now in Netflix. We have made this group, and it's very, very easy to socialize with everybody and to become very, very good friends with them. So definitely, I'm very excited and anxious at the same time to join the Vanderbilt community.
Of course, it will be a new change. Of course, that's right. It's your new reality in the next years, next 4 or 5 years. Lastly, do you see the whole picture of the application process now? You know, when we were preparing, we were talking about extracurriculars and why the tests are important and the essay and why you have to improve your writing skills. But now on the other side, you see why that matters. Because as you said, there are clubs you will join and there are people you want to communicate with. The academic setting is rigorous. Do you see now why this effort was necessary when you were applying?
It definitely matters. It definitely matters. As I said, even though most of you might think SAT is the important, all parts, extracurriculars, GPA, how much you're interested in the school, how much you're contacting with your advisor, all of that, it comes up and in the end it benefits you. I could tell you guys that as you saw there, my SAT wasn't in the range of Vanderbilt University, but through all of that demonstrated interest that I did, Bill also knows that I wasn't leaving the advisors alone even for a minute. I was able to tell to them that I could really not only improve myself when I go to Vanderbilt, but I could also contribute to the community there, and I could be a great fit for the school too. So definitely it matters all the things that you do now, and definitely matters how much you have put in effort right now to the success that you will be achieving when you join, hopefully, your dream school.
Of course. Thank you very much. I don't see any questions for now, but thank you for sharing your email as well. And of course, people can email us at EducationUSA as well. I wish you all the best. I hope I'll definitely see you virtually in person before you go, right? There is still time. And but you deserved, I mean, the opportunity you have. You worked so hard last year. Although, as you said, you were anxious and you were anxious about the whole preparation process. I think that's normal. We have to tell students that's normal to be scared and anxious. It's part of the process as well, but then the reward is amazing, right? You feel great.
The dopamine that you get from the reward, it's much higher than the dopamine.
Yes, I agree. When you get that email saying congratulations, right, it all pays out. So it's worth it at the end. I'm so glad for you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for your time today and sharing everything you've learned. And we'll stay in touch.
Bye. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.